Well, good morning, everybody. Hi again from Brisbane, Australia. I wanted to talk today about parental alienation syndrome just a little bit more, PAS as it's commonly known. And if you search the internet, you can find quite a lot of references now to this growing practice, which is really a bad thing. And I just wanted to talk about it mainly from a dad's perspective, and as one that's facing and has faced parental alienation syndrome extensively, to talk about how it happens. I don't know about why it happens, but how it can often be performed and done so that the other party is hurt. That's the dad, and yet people on the outside can't see what's going on. So look, I'm going to talk fairly personally about my situation, and I know there'll be many of you out there that are watching this that can relate to some, if not all, of these things that are going on. But when I was divorced and separated, in my case it was quite unexpectedly, the alienation started extremely quickly. In fact, I was shocked at how quickly two people that were lived and married and had a pretty good relationship, how quickly it escalated. And I think the first salvo, if you like, started with the filing of litigation by my ex-wife, and also the robbing of all our assets from our house. And that really set the ground rules, if you like, for the first salvo of a battle. And like, I certainly didn't want to be in a battle, but that's I guess for many of your dads out there have been treated with contempt, and for me that's how my situation started. The alienation started pretty soon afterwards, when you expect that you're going to have an ongoing relationship with your children. All of a sudden, wacko, you're divorced or separated, or your ex-wife leaves you, your wife at the time leaves you, your relationship ends up in a mess. Firstly, there's the shock and the disbelief, and you just want your whole life to be back the same, and you don't want to admit that it's true. But all of a sudden, it's happening, and all these things are around you, and then the legal letters start flying. And in my case, I didn't even have a solicitor, so I had to go and find a solicitor, and I had this really aggressive litigation. We demand everything, we demand the children, we demand, and it's just wrong. Now, solicitors have a lot to answer for, and I was really quite surprised and shocked at how aggressive and how wrong it all started rolling. I think the next shock is when you go in and you find that as a man you're not going to get half the assets, you're not going to get to see your children, in my case maybe some months before I even had any contact at all. And then subtly behind the scenes the alienation started. A few examples of that: my ex-wife, in my case, actually enrolled our children in another school without my consent, of course, and on the enrolment form she put that my whereabouts were unknown, which was completely untrue. The kids were enrolled in a school without any involvement from me. The next thing, of course, was that the school wasn't communicating to me anything, and I had to go up there, and all of a sudden you're the bad guy because you're the father up there causing trouble, asking questions, and they sort of look at you with blank faces, going, your ex-wife's obviously said lots of bad things about you, and you're the bad guy. So anyway, just be persistent with stuff like that. As a dad, you've got a right to be involved in your children's schooling, and you've got a right to ask questions, and you've got a right for information. And straight away, and this is the injustices I've talked about before, that there's this presumption that the wife is a better parent, and that the kids and the assets are going almost immediately, and in 92% of cases, to the female party in the marriage, and that's where the whole essence of this is completely wrong. Um, the alienation then extends to the wife saying to the kids, I'm no longer with daddy, daddy's a bad guy, daddy doesn't care for you, love you like I do. Um, Daddy does all these things wrong. Now, in no cases should any issue between mums and dads be discussed with kids. There's certain things that have got to be talked at a child's level. Clearly, that mummy isn't living with dad anymore, or dad's not living with mummy, but we both still love you, we both still care about you, and it's not your fault. All those things need to be said and done in such a way to protect the child. But the parent that gets involved in parental alienation does it by stealth. They do it subtly. It's the words they use, it's the lack of positivity that they use when they're talking about the other parent, it's the aggression that they show. And look, in my case, I think 7 or 8 years, I don't think my ex-wife has said one positive thing about me. So for you guys out there that are experiencing it, hurts like hell. It's very, very real. And of course, in a mediation situation or where there's counsellors involved down the track, your ex-partner will sit in the same room as you if you're lucky. In my case, probably not, and say, oh yes, I want the children to have a positive relationship with their father. Absolutely, it's totally important. Yet I had to spend 4 or 5 years battling through the courts, even to get orders so I could bring my children on their own birthday. Such was the resistance to, yes, I want the kids to have a great relationship with their father. It's just crap. You'd ring the kids at home. I know many of you do this. Again, I'm restricted when I can ring my own children, which is a disgrace. Then of course the phone doesn't answer, or I originally used to get the children don't want to talk with you, goodbye, and just the phone slammed down. You'd call back, of course the phone would be engaged. So the phone restriction is the first area where a lot of alienation starts, and that I think is a really bad thing to have happen. And many of you dads out there, I know you try and ring your kids and you can't even get to them. And look, I had that very early on as well. Unfortunately, you have to go back and start talking about the alienation and start talking about the contact problems. And if you have to get very strict court orders, then do so. Again, extending on to my kids, I finally got some contact with my kids. And there's lots of steps that it took me to get that. It took me a long time. I'm summarising very quickly here. And then I used to allow my children to ring their mum when they were with me anytime they wanted. But of course then on the phone she would take the opportunity to denigrate the contact the kids were having with me. That was her way of trying to hurt me and trying to make sure that I would give up from seeing my kids. Again, you have to be really strong. It's going to hurt like hell. You're going to have to, again, if you have to get court orders stopping the contact on the telephone, as much as you don't want to do that to your children, you also have a right to quiet enjoyment of your children as a dad. My ex-partner is an extreme alienator, and look, 7 or 8 years later has not stopped. In the worst examples, and again I've had this, you're going to get sexual abuse, so be extremely careful. You're going to get physical abuse. I had that on my first weekend of contact. I got home from work on the Monday after having a good time with the kids. Really look forward to having the kids after such a long court battle, only to get a card in my door from the Department of Families saying, we want to talk to you about your abuse of the kids. This stuff hurts like hell, and it should not be allowed. And again, in a public forum, the ex-wife will say, oh yes, I want them to have a great relationship, but the dad just doesn't make an effort, or he doesn't care, or he just can't bond with the kids. Silently behind the scenes, the alienator is doing everything possible to veto the relationship. Anyway, I'm running out of time. I'm going to post a bit more about it. Please respond, please come back to me, subscribe to my channel, send it to your friends. Dads are equal, and dads are equal parents, and let's do something about it.